And you can have the bifurcation stent talk by Dr. Mishra now.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. And as we can see, the top talk is, focused at this area only. You can see that, what kind of problems we have if we, plan a provisional strategy. And once we go to two-stent strategy, then all those, issues that we are seeing right now are, real problem. And naturally, you can see that the procedure also gets prolonged. So can I have my slides, please? Oh, okay. So it's there. Fine. So, the talk that I will be giving will be more of a philosophical nature, because I think there are not many dedicated bifurcation devices available at the moment, and at least they are not perfected yet. So that is why I think I will sort of give you insight into the whole thing, and I have nothing to disclose. So as we saw that, for bifurcation, the outcome of bifurcation lesion by PCI has been little less than optimal than a regular PCI, which is, a straightforward Gordon variety of PCI, because not only there is lower procedural success and higher short-term adverse outcomes, but there is also a poorer long-term angiographic and clinical results, and maybe higher restenosis rates and TLRs. So that is why these outcomes have been bad. But interestingly, the most important predictor of adverse outcome is the result that you obtain in the main branch. So that is the most important predictor. If you can get a good result in the main branch, then probably, what happens to the side branch is of less importance. And that is the reason why, several trials, and previously Dr. Mardikal was also telling us that for most of the cases, one stent strategy may be better than, planned two stent strategies. And of course, these are some of the trials which show just exactly that, one stent strategy may be a better strategy. However, the main limitation of single stent strategy is, while the restenosis or TLR rates in the main branch come to pretty low, less than 10% with use of drug-eluting stents, but in the side branch, despite the use of drug-eluting stent, with this single stent strategy, the TLR rates continue to remain higher than 10%. So what is the reason for high TLR rates more than 10% in the single stent strategy in the side branch? Of course, we know that if you use a single stent, there will be no scaffolding in the side branch ostium, so side branch will continue to remain, ground where you might have to do something. Second is, once you do only a single stent in main branch, there could be a significant shift into the ostium of the side branch, so much so that even you might risk losing the side branch completely. And finally, because if you just do a balloon dilatation, like in the previous case we just saw, then there could be a dissection, and if you don't stent it, then there could be a higher risk of restenosis. Therefore, if only POBA is done, then you are limited by a higher rate of restenosis in side branches. What about two-stent strategy? Well, while it can provide adequate scaffolding of side branch ostium, it is also not devoid of any complication, and rather it has huge list of problems that can happen. For example, there is always an issue of excessive stent coverage, which can lead to thrombosis, more tissue injury, and dissections, etc. Second is that, one of the stents could be mal-oriented, particularly if the main branch stent is mal-oriented because of deployment of side branch stent, then, this could be a problem. Third is that, despite the fact that you are doing a two-stent strategy, with the current strategies that are available, the side branch access is not guaranteed, especially with the crush technique or the culotte technique, where you can still, while you may be planning a side branch stent, but still lose the side branch access. Finally, if you are using two wires, there is always issue of wire wrap. And there is always a difficulty in recrossing the deployed stents. So for example, if you have to recross once in crush stenting, then you have this problem. If you have to recross through two stent layers or three stent layers, then it becomes a real problem. So these are some of the issues with a two-stent strategy. But more importantly, there are several reasons why two-stent strategy is not very appealing, and many of these are the mechanistic reasons. For example, many of you might know that there is a 3-diameter rule that, the broadly what it says is that if you know the diameter of the main vessel and you know the side branch diameters, both of them daughter side branches, and you do 2/3 of the total of the side branches, then you get the diameter of the main branch. Which means that if you know 2 of the diameters, you can always predict the third diameter, even if it is occluded or is very tightly stenosed, you can predict the third diameter. But the problem is that if you have too much layer of stents in the main branch, then this rule will not hold true. Then the two side branches, 2/3, will not be the size of the main branch. It will become less than 2/3, and that will lead to several flow dynamic results that would lead to flow dynamic obstructions, and it will actually behave like a stenosis if you have too much metal in the main branch because of several strategies. So I think that is one important problem, and of course I talked about lack of apposition of one of the main stents either in the side branch or in the main branch because of the kind of strategies that we are using. And then finally, of course, as we know, you might have to cross number of times. There may be several steps involved in a 2-stent strategy. For example, you know in the T stenting there could be 5 steps. In the culottes there could be 7 steps. So it would be a prolonged procedure, and we know that by experience and also some data that the lesser you keep the patient on the table, the better it is for you and for the patient, both of them. So that is why, we know that, a very long 2-stent strategy may not be a very good idea. And finally, of course, we know that reintervention through one of the stents, if you have to do later on through in a 2-stent strategy, is slightly difficult. So that is why we find that results of 1 stents are generally better than 2-stent strategies. And, there are several, differences. There could be lower rates of periprocedural MIs, possibly lower MACE rates, possibly lower restenosis rates, and definitely lower stent thrombosis rates. So basically, we need to address these anatomical, while it looks like the 2-stent is theoretically good because you are covering or scaffolding, providing a scaffold to the ostium of the side branch, but because of several issues, we need to find a better strategy, which is better than 2-stent strategy and also better than 1-stent strategy. And we know that there are several issues with 2-stent strategies. One of them, as you can see right now, is that non-opposition of the main branch stent. And as we had already discussed, that the main branch is the one which is responsible for long-term outcomes. So if you compromise the main branch, then long-term outcomes are also not good. And previous case, we also saw that we were completely focused on main branch. First, we are able to fix the main branch, then we think about side branch at all. Because that is where, the challenge of this kind of thing happens. And so what is the way out? Of course, way out is a dedicated bifurcation device. And as you can see, there are several types of dedicated bifurcation devices available at the moment. But the most common variety is where you do a main branch stenting and you provide some scaffold to the side branch. So it is something like provisional stenting strategy where you are focused at the main branch. You just open up the side branch or ostium of the side branch a little bit to provide access, and also, to put up a later stent if required. So it's essentially a provisional 1-stent strategy with slight modifications. Then second is the side branch stent. You put the stent in side branch, and then you decide about main branch. You could put another stent in the main branch. So that is another type of bifurcation device. Then there are a proximal bifurcation stent device where you first stent the proximal part, and through that stent you approach both the side branches, the daughter main vessel and the side branch. And then finally, there are true bifurcated stents, which are actually 2 stents. And of course, you can imagine that it's pretty cumbersome trying to do these devices. So this is the most common type of device. This is the main branch stent with side branch scaffolding. And as you can see from the design, it's very clear that you get a good access to the main branch while you keep the access to the side branch always patent. And it is useful for most types of bifurcation except purely side branch lesion, where you would think of a side branch device rather than this kind of device. And of course, as we know, the priority is main branch stenting and providing a scaffold to the side branch. Now, again, there are several types of these devices actually, depending on how they are aligned. There could be self-alignment devices where you just put the device in and then automatically it takes the shape, and automatically the part which has to open in the side branch gets aligned to there. Or there could be control alignment. You could do a little bit and try to align these devices. And there are certain devices where no alignment is required. So, I will just discuss one of these type of devices. This is the Nile bifurcation. Basically, I will discuss which are available in our country or which are about to come in the country. This is the Nile bifurcation device. And as you can see, it is basically a single stent on two balloons. And actually, there are three segments. One segment is, distal main vessel, proximal main vessel, and then you have the scaffold region where, you can open up to the side branch. And there are three markers in the main balloon. One of them, the distal, a central marker, which is where the scaffold will be present, and the proximal marker, which will determine where the stent exists. So there are basically three markers on the main balloon and two markers on the side balloon. And among them, the Nile Croc was the earlier system, which was a bare metal stent. But the next generation is Nile Pack system, which is a polymer-free, paclitaxel coated on cobalt chromium platform. But interestingly, one interesting aspect about this stent is that the two balloons are not parallel to each other, but they are in tandem. So that means that the main branch balloon actually is there distally, and the side branch balloon is present proximally, so that the profile of the system still remains less than 6F, although there are two balloons available. And I will just show you by the example that I'm going to show. So as you can see now, probably, I think you can see, so you can see that there is a main branch and there are three markers there. And before that, there is the proximal balloon, which has got two markers. So you see the main vessel balloon has got three markers. The idea is to align accurately the central balloon to the ostium of the side branch, so that you are able to do this. So the steps are, first you insert two wires, always pre-dilate the lesions, both the lesions. Then you correctly position the Nile stent system so that the central marker is aligned with the ostium of the side branch. And then here what is happening is that the tip of the balloon of the side branch just is there at the ostium. And then the main branch stent is deployed, so that you have not entered into the side branch with the balloon, but the main branch stent is already deployed. Then after that, what you do is you move the side branch stent further, so that the proximal marker of the side branch stent is aligned with the central marker of the main vessel, and the distal marker moves into the side branch. And then you provide the dilatation. You dilate both of them simultaneously, so it's like a kissing, and you get the good result. Then coming to the different types of stent, this is the side branch stents. Actually, at the moment, there are two stents that are available in the side branch stent. One was what you saw yesterday, the Capella side guard, and the second one is a Triton stent. But both of these stents are bare metal stents at the moment. The advantages are, especially they are useful for main side branch lesions, where they are specifically designed to secure the side branch, but they should be used only when side branch lesion is present. Deliverability is good, no risk of wire wrap. Stent position is also relatively easy, and I will show you how it is. But the main disadvantage is that you are committed to a two-stent use, especially if there is some lesion in the main vessel also. So you are already pre-decided that you will have to use two stents. This is that device that we saw yesterday, the Capella side guard device, so I'll not go any further. But there is another device which looks even more innovative, and this is the Triton bifurcation device. Again, as I said, it's a cobalt chromium device only, which is bare metal stent. There is no polymer, or there is no drug coating. It has got a strut thickness of 76 microns, and it has got 4 radio opaque markers. And important thing is that it has got 3 segments. There is a proximal segment, or distal segment, as you can see. This is the real stent which is present in the side branch. Then there is a connecting segment or transition segment where you can see these 3 wires which are connecting. And then there is a proximal segment which again, has at the end of it has a sleeve, so that it provides good support to the main vessel, does not give a lot of metal in the main vessel, but still if you want to put another stent through it, you could do it very easily, and it could provide at least some support to the main vessel. So I think that is the main thing. It is composed of 3 zones and 4 markers, and I will show you exactly how it works. And if you can see, I don't know whether it is visible, but you can see that there are 4 markers. So first marker, as you can see, the most distal marker is where the stent is ending into the side branch. The second marker from distal end is where the ostium of the side branch is. The third marker is where the carina is there. And the fourth marker is where the stent or the scaffold to the main branch will end. Now remember, with this kind of stent, because you are only scaffolding the main vessel, you are not providing good support to it, you might have to put another stent in the main vessel. But side branch access is assured, and a good access to the main branch also exists. So you have no risk of blocking the main vessel later on. Then, of course, there are third type of devices which are the proximal bifurcation device, and of course, at the moment they have not come in India, but you can see that this is how it is. It provides access to both the limbs, slightly bulkier than the previous devices, but you can very nicely have put another stent here or in the main vessel if you want, like that. So it is like especially like a skirt technique that we used to describe for bifurcation stenting. It works on that principle of a skirt technique, that you provide a proximal skirt, and then through that skirt you can deliver two further devices. And then finally, these bifurcated stents. Unfortunately, they are very bulky devices, and it is very difficult to position, because if you get into the main vessel, the other part should also go into the side branch, and then whole system is very bulky, and you have to maneuver this system, and so it's really a very tedious process, and only experts are able to do it at the moment unless it becomes a better system. So I think that is the limitation of these devices. As I said, advantage of course is that it's a simple procedure if you are able to do it, and it can give a good sort of scaffold, but problems I already discussed with you. So finally, to conclude, I would say that despite the superiority of one stent approach in majority of the bifurcation lesions, TLRs in the side branch continues to remain high, which means that if you really want to completely revascularize the patient, or you want to give a complete good quality, you might have to go for a two-stent approach also. Problem with two-stent strategies are that you affect the dynamics so much, you go against the 3-diameter rule, you affect the flow dynamics, and you provide a very high metal load, etc., and also the procedure is technically very difficult and very prolonged, that you need to have these kind of stents which are dedicated bifurcated stents. And of course, several types of dedicated bifurcated stents are available, but the two more common varieties, the most common variety is when you do the main branch and you provide a scaffold to the side branch, and second is the side branch stent, which might provide some support to the main branch. So thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Sandeep. That was a very elegant review. But I think the lesson is that whatever we may do, 2012, we still don't have a perfect solution for bifurcation disease. And unfortunately, bifurcation disease is pretty common.